Welcome to another episode of the Goddess Sugar Podcast. I trust that you are arriving in gratitude, love, and all the magic the universe has to offer because you are very much magical. A gentle reminder before we dive in, everything that I speak about on my podcast comes from my personal truth, experiences, and journey. Take what resonates with your spirit and leave what doesn't. This is a space for exploration and not perfection. Trust your own path, and let's walk this magical journey together. Before any episode, it's important for me to acknowledge the people and the forces that have brought me here today. Thank you to my divine pantheon for trusting me with your ancestral wisdom. Thank you to Spirit for being all things. Thank you to the universe for holding the cosmic beauty of our infinity. Thank you to my ancestors who walked before me. Thank you to my sacred guides for holding my hand every step of the way. Thank you to my family, friends, mentors, teachers, and the collective who support me in this physical realm. And thank you to myself for daring to live as the goddess that I am.
Hello, goddess. Here we are again for another episode. So, as you can see by the title, I want to get into something deep, something that a lot of people don't really open up about, a tool that has helped me live as the goddess that I am, right? So let's be real. Everyone navigates mental and emotional challenges at some point in their life. It's just a part of this human experience because let's be honest, the human experience can be kind of ghetto sometimes. I know y'all know what I'm talking about. As spiritual as you may consider yourself, at the end of the day, we are all spiritual beings having this human experience in this time frame, right? On this timeline. So it's normal that you would hit a tough spot at some point. It's a part of the experience. It's a part of the journey. But I want to make it clear that it doesn't make you weird. It doesn't make you broken or less than to hit these tough spots in your life. In the generations that came before us, mental health was rarely talked about and it was so taboo. And if you did hear about mental health, it was associated with crazy people, like people in the psych ward, like that's what you heard about mental health. So if that's not corrected, that just continues through the generations. And that's what we start to think that it is as well. However, I am glad to see within the, I guess you could say like past 5-ish years, maybe, I'm glad that our society is moving away from that ideology and people are actually starting to open up to this tool because that's exactly what therapy is. And it's a tool that I do believe can help everyone in some way. Something that I learned during my first rodeo with therapy is some people don't have quote unquote problems and that's why they're seeking therapy. Some people just need someone to talk to and that is okay. Whether that's you or you are seeking help, it doesn't matter. Therapy is a tool. Therapy is for the conscious. People need this tool to help navigate different seasons and transitions of their lives. And I don't think that we should look down upon people who choose to seek therapy. Because therapy is for the courageous. Therapy is for the ones that are committed to healing, evolving, and breaking cycles. And goddess, that sounds like you. So I kind of want to just start out talking a little bit about how I started my journey in therapy. I started therapy my freshman year of college. And honestly, it was something that I didn't even know I needed. It was just presented as an option to me. So I was like, why not? It's interesting because once you get in there and, of course their job is to ask you certain questions so they can see where you're at. I realized that I needed to unpack a lot of childhood trauma. And I did. I needed to unpack some things that were kind of hidden. And honestly, that's what I love about therapy. And also what I love about the spiritual journey period, because people assume that your spiritual journey is just supposed to be all love and light, but you also have to face the shadows. You have to face the parts of yourself that you kind of tuck away in the cracks and in the dark areas, and therapy honestly puts you in a position to face yourself, which is also why I think a lot of people are scared, honestly, to seek therapy because at the end of it all, it forces you to face yourself. But as I was saying, when I started therapy my freshman year of college, yeah, I came to realize that I needed to unpack some things, and there were some things that I experienced that I didn't even know really affected me until I really started talking about those things. And so I had a Black woman therapist, and I loved her. She was just so lovely. Also, I thought it was important to have a therapist that looked like me. I know that I wanted a Black woman therapist, just because I feel like there will be more understanding there. But I'm not saying like that's the route you have to go, but it is an option. As I started going to therapy, I realized, wow, there are some things that I never really talked about. There are some things that I tucked in the back of my mind and decided never to look back. But the thing is, just because I tucked it in the back doesn't mean it wasn't there. No, it was still there waiting for me to deal with it and acknowledge it. And I want to say, anything that you face, any traumas that you experience, anything that you don't deal with, trust me, it does not go away. It just sits tight until you acknowledge it. And that's another thing that I love about therapy, is that it helps you acknowledge these things so you can actually move on without carrying weight. Because I know for me, and I'm sure someone out there resonates, but I am the eldest of 7. So of course I grew up with that eldest sister role, you know, being the responsible one, being the strong one, being the one to just go the extra mile. And while that has helped me, you know, develop my character as far as just life, also there just were some things that were too heavy for me to carry, and I didn't realize until I actually unpacked it. So going through therapy also not only just helped me unpack, but it helped me recognize certain mental patterns that I've had. Not necessarily that they were bad, but just certain ways I would think, or certain ways that I would always react to a situation. And it's like, okay, hold on, let's decipher that. Let's break this down. Why does Zipporah respond this way when A happens or when B happens? Or why does she feel this way when this person is in her space? It really helps you dissect yourself and get to the root of things and why you do what you do, or why you have some of the habits that you have. And I think that's really important to your evolving as a person and as a goddess, period. And also, I just want to say, obviously, I say goddess because I'm talking to the goddesses out there, but also for the gods, for the men. Okay, this is for you too. This is for you too, okay? Therapy is for you too. But anyway, so yeah, like it really helps you recognize certain patterns that you have and why you may move the way that you moved. I know for me also, therapy helped me recognize where I would behave a certain way in order to protect myself or in order to essentially survive, because that's also a concept that is starting to become, more prevalent in our conversations now, is being in survival mode. And being in therapy helped me realize where I was doing that, why I was feeling the need, like I need to protect myself from what? From who? You know, like it gets you to ask these questions. And I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Shoot. I'm not going to lie to y'all. Honestly, I would say about over half of my therapy sessions, I'm crying. And I say that because I'm glad that during my therapy sessions, I cried, because one, if I was crying, that meant that I felt safe, right? Because for me, like, I'm one of those people, like, I'm like, if something's going on, I'm going to handle it and I'm going to cry later. But therapy gave me that space to just be like, just let it go. Just let it go. Like, Zipporah, you've been holding on to too much. And I know, to you listening, you most likely been holding on to too much. You most likely need to release something. And I know for me, the way that I release is crying. Like, literally, I have to cry about it. Like, it doesn't matter what's going on in my life. It could be something good going on in my life, like something happy, or it could be something like crazy going on. I have to cry it out in order to fully release it. And in order for me to fully like fill out the situation, I have to cry it out. That is the Cancer in me, the crybaby Cancer, you know? Yeah, I have to cry it out. Some people have to scream. You know what I'm saying? Some people just have to sit in silence. I don't know what your outlet is, but going through therapy will help you find that as well. Because I was able to dissect myself in this way on all levels and actually unpack what needed to be unpacked, right? Because my first therapist, she always taught me this. She always taught me, all that baggage you're holding, give it back. Because a lot of that shit is not yours anyway. And we have to remember that, like, a lot of us don't just carry like our weight, but we're also carrying the weight and baggage of other people. I'm gonna let you sit with that for a second. You are most likely carrying weight that's not even yours to carry. It's already enough carrying yourself and your weight and your emotions. So imagine if you're doing that, but then doing that for 2 other people or doing that for 10 other people, whatever it is. That is too much. It's too much. And my therapist was just, I loved her for that. That every time she was like, Zipporah, give that shit back. Give it back to the person it belongs to, because that's not your baggage. It's not your weight. And I'm just glad that she always instilled that in me. So my first wave with therapy was awesome, and I just loved it. Honestly, it helped me become more confident in myself and the way that I moved. It helped me learn how to trust myself. It just reminded me, like, Zipporah, you're having a human experience. It's okay for you to experience these things and acknowledge them, to say that something hurt your feelings, to say that something is too much. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's okay to not necessarily be so strong all the time. You know, I'm glad that I got that opportunity, you know, to experience therapy on that level. And so I had that therapist for pretty much all of college. And then I moved to different states. You know, obviously when you move, like, the coverage is, you know, your insurance and everything is different. And so I went about a year without therapy. And I want to add, also my first time with therapy, it helped me develop my own inner therapist, which I love. And that's something that I will always take with me, because even when things come up now, like, I'm able to work myself and talk myself through it. So when I moved, I went some time without having a therapist, and I was going through a big transition. Like, I had just graduated and I started my new job in a whole new state, in a whole new part of the United States. I didn't know anyone, like, really coming up here. I did not consider how big of a transition I was making. I was just so excited that I was graduating. You know, I was so excited about actually living on my own, getting my first place. But I did not realize how big of a change I was making in my life. I was leaving friends. I was leaving an HBCU environment that I was used to for 4 years. I was leaving behind that role of being a student and being a campus queen and, you know, doing all these different things on campus, because that's the type of student I was. And on top of that, I was actually starting my first big girl job, like, big girl job. You know what I'm talking about? Like, so all of these transitions, and I didn't realize I'm just going, right? And then, so I graduated in May of 2023. June came around and everything was okay. July came around. It's almost like everything just fully hit me that I made this transition. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I was very emotional at the time, and it was just a lot. So, like, I kind of took a break from life for, like, the rest of 2023. Like, I did some things, but I really took a break because it was like a lot. And it was like all of that preparation that I did for the first half of 2023 of, like, preparing myself to graduate. And then again, like, I was doing a lot of work as a campus queen, and I was doing a lot of work with my business and things like that. And just preparing for my last year in college. Like, I had did so much. The way I work, like, when I'm working so hard like that, everything, like, shuts off. I'm just very focused. I'm very tunnel vision. But it was like when I graduated, left, moved, and now I had some time to settle into my new place, because that's another thing. Like, moving is so much. Like, getting your first place, actually buying furniture for the first time. Like, it's so much. So I think it just started to really hit me. And my body and my mind was like, yo, I'm tired. Girl, you just did all this transitioning. Like, I get you excited, but we're tired. I just came off of 4 years of being a damn good student, because I was, okay, magna cum laude, like, I did that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really did my thing. So I didn't account for post-graduation depression. That is something that I feel like is not talked about enough, is that a lot of graduates experience some form of depression after graduating. You're on this high, you walk across that stage, you had that degree, and it kind of hits you like, wow, I'm starting my life. Or for some people, it's like, what's next? And I'm extremely grateful that I had a job walking across the stage, but I did know people that didn't. That's also a different route that can lead you to feeling some sort of depression. And so for me, I was experiencing depression from just all this transitioning and everything being new. It's like all this change hitting me, you know, at one time. And even though it's exciting, it's different. It's unfamiliar, you know, and it was extremely hard for me because I'm used to knowing everything and I'm not used to really feeling unfamiliar, you know? And so I didn't account for depression I would face, you know, after graduating, but I did. In the same breath, I made it through. And I found my flow. I went through that like towards the end of 2023, and it was fairly mild. It wasn't horrible, but I definitely had some days that were just like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? But yeah, so coming up to 2024, I want to say, did I start therapy again in 2024? I did. It was in 2024 that I started therapy again. Yeah, because it'll be a year. Okay. So 2024, I was like, you know what, Z, let's get back into therapy. I think it'll be a good idea for you to get back into therapy. I mean, yeah, I've kind of come out of my depressive state at this point, but again, I have no shame in seeking help and just having that support and having that guide and having that person to lean on, you know? So I did. I was like, let's do it again. Let's do it again. But this time around, I was very like strict on like what I wanted in a therapist. I wrote down like, okay, what do I want? What am I trying to get out of it? Blase, blase. I do want to say this is very important when you're looking for a therapist. I would say don't just go with the first one that you see. Actually find a few that you may be interested in that work with your insurance, you know, that work with your situation, and just see like what, like, because sometimes when you go to like their website or whatever, like they'll kind of tell you how their modalities are, like how they offer their therapy. So I would definitely recommend you read through that. Also, if they offer it, which most therapists do, schedule a consultation call. Most of the time they're free. Like, it's like a 15-minute call, and ask the questions that you want to ask to see if you will be a good fit, because you have to remember, like, you want you and your therapist to be a good fit. That's how you're going to get the most out of therapy. And it's not to say that if a therapist is not a good fit for you, that they're not a good therapist. It's just, that's not the one for you. It's just like a relationship. It's not saying something's wrong with that person. They're just not a good fit for you. You know what I mean? So yeah, I would definitely like encourage you to do that. I went through 8 consultation calls with different therapists before I found the one that I was actually very interested in. Like, I was like, that's the one. Like, they are the one that I want. A main thing that was important when I was looking for a therapist this time is that they incorporated spirituality into their practice, because I'm a very spiritual person. I'm into manifestation, affirmations, astrology, all of those things. And it was important for me to align myself with a therapist that was open to that and that also practiced that, because I would feel more comfortable in that setting, because they would just understand certain things, because it's like, we here, you know what I'm saying? I wanted like a therapist that like just understood me in that way, who actually incorporated that into their practice, who actually didn't mind talking about the concept of manifestation, the concept of working with the moon, the concept of energy. But like I said, it's whatever works for you. That was important to me. And it was wild, because I think when it came to like my 7th consultation, I honestly started to lose a little bit of hope, because I'm like, I just can't find one that I'm really excited about, that I really want. But I kept going. And it was just one day I was like, let's just look again. Let's just look again. Kept looking. And I found the therapist that I have now. And I went to their website and I was just reading through what they were talking about. And it incorporated everything I was looking for. And honestly, I was in shock, because I was like, oh my gosh, this is like exactly the person I was looking for. But that's how the universe works. You know, you put it out there, it's going to come to you, period. And so I was just looking through, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hope they are taking new clients. So I filled out the submission form, and they got back to me, you know, within the week, and was like, let's schedule a consultation call. And as soon as we got on the phone, we knew it was like a match. It was a match. Like, we just knew, like, I was excited and my therapist was also excited, and I just love them. Like, it's interesting. Like, we work well together. And interestingly enough, we have a lot of similar placements in our astrological chart. So maybe that's why we go so well together, but they are awesome. Even with this therapist that I have now, I realized like you can have different therapists for different seasons in your life. So like my first therapist that I had, she was good for that season of my life where I was in college and I was dealing with college things. This therapist that I have now is really good for me in my adulting era. Me actually being in the real world, me being so immersed in my spirituality and in my awakening. So I just want to like say that as well. Therapists can be for different seasons of your life. Again, it's just like relationships. Some personal tips that I just want to add about therapy is like, you just have to keep trying. Like when it comes to looking, like I kind of explained my story there, just keep trying. I'm telling you, there is a therapist for you. There's a therapist that will match. For my Black men, okay, for my men, I would definitely recommend get you a Black men therapist. Because there's just certain things that y'all can talk about that y'all will understand. Like I said, you have to do what's best for you. No judgment. Do your research on this person. If they have like reviews, look into those and just see what's on their website. See what they're about. That's going to help you figure out, okay, would we be in alignment, you know, with each other? Would this therapist be in alignment with where I am in my life? And of course, while you're doing your research, you know, consider your insurance. I know some policies, like sometimes the copay is only $10. So it's like, okay, if your insurance is set up and your copay is only $10, there is nothing wrong with investing $10 in your mental health every month or every 2 weeks or however often you need to go. Like, let's just take a second and let's be real here. We will sit here and spend money on clothes, you know, on going out to eat. We'll spend money on alcohol, going out, you know, we'll spend money on things for our homes, whatever. So why would you not want to invest that same time, energy, and money into your mental well-being? Because your mind is important to have. Being able to wake up with a peace of mind is so important. It's a luxury. It really is. It's an underrated luxury that people do not talk about. To wake up with a peace of mind, to wake up knowing who you are, and also being able to navigate yourself through times where you may have mental spirals or you may be doubting or whatever, because those times are going to come. You can't run from it. It's a part of the experience. So it's like, why not invest in yourself that way? That's the thing. Like I was saying earlier, like I feel like some people are afraid to go to therapy because they're afraid to face themselves. But that's the thing. You have to make friends with your quote unquote shadow self. Okay. You do. That's also a part of doing the work, doing shadow work, and that's going to be a part of your spiritual journey. Like I said, it's not just love and light and flowers. No, you have to face yourself, all versions of yourself, your higher self and your shadow self, because it's all you. You know what I'm saying? It's all a part of you. So if you actually just acknowledge yourself, all of yourself, and say, hey, I'm here. What do you need? I promise you, your relationship with self will be so much better. That's another way that therapy helps as well. It helps you develop your relationship with self. That is the most important relationship you're going to have in this lifetime, is relationship with self. I want to also present some questions that I actually asked during my consultation calls that I want to share with you that you can ask to help kind of gauge your therapist hunt. So some questions that you may want to ask are, do you offer both in-person and virtual therapy sessions? So some questions that you may want to ask while you're on your therapy hunt is, do you offer both in-person and virtual therapy sessions? You have to decide which is good for you. If you really want to be in person, if you want, the hybrid model, like whatever works for you. Do you incorporate spirituality into your practice? If so, which modalities do you use? That was an important question for me because I explained it to you all earlier. If you are more religious, you may want to ask, do you incorporate religion into your practice? If so, how? What are the confidentiality rules for our sessions? You want to make sure that you are protected. Now, of course, they're not supposed to be sharing any information that you share in the session, but it's just a question you can ask to reassure yourself. What information do you need from me so that I receive the most out of these sessions? How do I best prepare for our sessions? Do you assign homework or tasks between sessions? And how often would you recommend that we meet? These are some starter questions that you can ask your therapist because they're going to ask you questions as well. And so it just shows that you're putting in the effort, you're willing to do what you need to do and gain the information that you need to make a conscious decision in which therapist you want to go with. While I was gaining the answers to these questions, it helped me decide yeah, that therapist, no, it's not for me. Or this person may be an option, but let me just keep looking. So those are some questions that you may want to ask when you're actually looking. And just some few other tidbits I want to give. Whether you are just starting your therapy journey, thinking about it, or trying to be open to it, I want to say, don't be afraid of your shadows. Do not be afraid of your trauma. They are simply just waiting to be acknowledged by you. Also with therapy, another thing that I love about it, I think it's really good to have an unbiased perspective because here's the thing. Yes, of course, we can talk to our loved ones. We can talk to friends. We can talk to people online, whatever. But the thing is, everybody's going to be biased in some way because they know you or they just already have their biases with the situation versus someone who doesn't really know you and that can actually sit from the outside and see everything that you're saying. Because sometimes, especially if there's something major going on in our life, we are actually living it in real time, right? So it's hard for us to see everything, but someone on the outside that's not really in the situation can see it fully for what it is. So that kind of goes on to my next point. When you're in therapy, this is the space for you to be vulnerable. I know we all probably have our issues with being vulnerable, depending on the platform. I know it's a work in progress for a lot of us. However, therapy, that hour or however much time that you have with your therapist, that is the time to be vulnerable. That is the time to release, to cry, to let it out, to say the things you haven't been saying. Because I'm telling you, those things that you've been trying to tuck and keep down, it wants to be let out. It wants to be released. That's why it keeps coming back up. That's why you keep thinking about it because it hasn't been released. And therapy is your place to do that. So that's why I also just encourage you to do your research on whichever therapist you're thinking about, because you have to realize this is a person that you want to feel safe with. This is a person that's going to be holding you through this season of your life. And you want to feel held. You want to feel safe. I know that's important for me. If I'm going to give you my life story, If I'm going to give you all the details, if I'm going to sit here and cry and bawl in front of you, I want to feel safe. So you want to make sure that you feel safe with this person so that you can be vulnerable, so that you can let everything out on the table and move forward. And my last little tidbit that I will give is, look, it's time. It's time to face yourself, and it's time to do the work. When I say do the work, I don't just mean finding a therapist and going to each session. That's actually the easy part. The harder part is actually doing the work outside of the session, actually taking what you learned and taking what you were able to realize and unpack and actually implement it so that you can become a better version of yourself. So remember, Goddess, seeking support doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. You don't have to carry everything alone. Your healing is sacred. Your mental wellness is divine. Continue to choose yourself, keep speaking your truth, and never, ever feel ashamed to ask for what your soul needs. Continue to stay grounded, stay glowing, and know that you're always worthy of support, understanding, and being held.
Stay calm. And remember, even when life tries to throw salt in your sugar, be a goddess anyway. Peace and blessings. Much love. Ciao, ciao. Ashe. Until next time, love. XOXO.